I asked over 15,000 Naruto fans across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and these are the 100 highest rated questions they wanted answered. What if Boruto is just infinite Tsukiyomi? And unfortunately, that just wouldn't make sense because the infinite Tsukiyomi is supposed to be the person's dream life. It's supposed to be the life that they want to have the most, so it wouldn't make sense for him to have all of this turmoil and destruction of being attacked by the Otsutsukis, losing Kurama, or being trapped in a different dimension. His dream life during the war arc was probably getting a private medical exam by the Pink Forehead. Why didn't Netflix make the live action of Naruto first? And I'm pretty sure this is in reference to the success of the One Piece live action. And the answer is simply Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto, might just not want to create a live action, because Netflix has to get permission from the author in order to create and use the property. Although with that being said, due to the overwhelming success of the One Piece live action, I feel as though a lot of anime authors may be more open to the idea now. Hear me out. Yamato's real name isn't Yamato. Tsunade gave that name to him while assigning him as captain of Team 7. Note that Tsunade became Hokage only after Hiruzen's death. In the 4th Great Ninja War, we know that Hiruzen and Yamato meet after the White Zetsu thing that was controlling him died, and after coming out, he got under Infinite Tsukiyomi and Hiruzen shouted, "Yamato!" How could he have known his name? This is in dub, just so you know. And you are absolutely correct that this logically does not make sense because Hiruzen should not know the name Yamato, and this simply just comes down to a mistake in the writing, which does happen pretty commonly in long-running manga, as the mangaka kinda just forgets certain plot points. What if Sakura died during the fight between Sasori versus Sakura and Chiyo? And this would cause multiple different scenarios, as either A, Chiyo would bring back Sakura instead of Gaara, which would drastically change the arc of the war arc, as it would not have Gaara as a commander, or B, they would leave Sakura dead and bring back Gaara, which would drastically change the war arc also because of the fact that Sakura helped heal countless people during the war. Which would mean a lot more people would be dead, including possibly Naruto, because Naruto was being healed by Sakura while they were waiting for the Hokage to get there. Also, in either scenario, it could cause turmoil between the Leaf and the Sand because obviously Temari and Kankuro and the rest of the Sand Village would argue to revive Gaara versus Naruto and Kakashi wanting to probably revive Sakura. How did Hinata went flat and how did Tsunade grow big orange?
What?
And I'm not entirely sure what this question is asking because Hinata quite clearly has some big oranges and Tsunade has the grapefruits. And either way, Papa wants some juice. Best jutsu in Naruto. And in my opinion, it's Kamui because it is so exceedingly overpowered because not only do you have the ability to basically make yourself impervious to any damage, but Obito is able to use it as a teleportation device and travel exceedingly far distances. Imagine you are Naruto and Sakura is yours. And this answer is quite simple. First, I would take her out for some ramen, and then I would pull out a page from Madara's handbook and ask her, how many shadow clones do you want, and how many of them do you want to use Tailed Beast Bomb? Taketori Hoki, the kid that was a fan of Kakashi and a classmate of Boruto, is Kakashi and Ramen Guy's daughter's secret child. And while I can't officially confirm or deny this due to his parents never being revealed, it does make a lot of sense, as he does look exactly like Kakashi. And it may have been a filler episode, but she basically fell in love with Kakashi when she saw his face, and she does have the same hair color as the kid. If Minato is not dead, then we call Naruto as Naruto Namikaze, and I like it. And yeah, I agree, if Minato had not died in the Kurama attack, Naruto would be named Naruto Namikaze. And personally, in my opinion, I think he should have been Naruto Namikaze in the first place, because I do know that a lot of people will argue that the reason he wasn't named that is so Minato's enemies wouldn't find out that Naruto was his son. But Naruto is a Jinchuriki, and therefore, in my opinion, that makes him an even bigger target than just being the 4th Hokage's son. And not only that, but the Uzumaki clan is also extremely sought after, which makes him a target as well. So the only logical reason for him to have the last name Uzumaki is so he himself wouldn't find out that he was the 4th Hokage's son, and even that to me doesn't make sense, because I feel like it would have motivated Naruto even more to become Hokage so he could follow in his dad's footsteps. If Naruto uses Shadow Clone Jutsu in his first night, then he must have twins or triplets. And since this was very poorly worded, I'm going to assume this means they're talking about him using Shadow Clones on his first night with Hinata, if you know what I mean. But if that's the case, then that just makes me assume that this person skipped anatomy class because they're basically saying multiple guys equals multiple babies. And if that were the case, then let's be honest. Naruto and Hinata would have to worry about a lot more than 2 or 3 kids. What if Obito did not die in the Ninja War and lived till Boruto? And this may sound like a cool scenario, but let's be honest, if he were to have lived, he most likely would have been imprisoned for the rest of his life. Because yes, I understand that you could make the argument that they let Sasuke free, but at the same time, Sasuke's crimes were drastically less than Obito's. Sasuke's biggest crimes were killing Danzo, if you consider that a crime, and attacking the other Kage. Which are pretty severe, yes, because that's the anime equivalent of attacking the United Nations. Then there's Obito, who attacked the Leaf Village, killing hundreds if not thousands of people, then started the Akatsuki, which eventually got multiple other people killed because he's responsible because they all work for him, and then he started a world war, which killed thousands upon thousands of more people. Then again, Orochimaru and Kabuto were let free, so at that point, I don't know, maybe he would be free, and just kept under surveillance. In which case, that would have been interesting, because Kamui would have been pretty useful against Ishiki. What if Ramen Guy is a god of Otsutsuki, and Tenten is his daughter? Well, of course, he's the strongest character in the entire series, Teiuchi of the 6 Bowls, and as far as Tenten being his daughter, I don't think that one flies, just due to the fact that, in reality, he accomplished more throughout the series than Tenten ever did. At least he provided food for the main character, meanwhile Tenten got folded like one of Conan's pieces of paper. What if Jiraiya accepted the request and became a Hokage? And this would actually have drastically changed the story, because if Jiraiya had become Hokage, he A, would have never left the village with Naruto, so Naruto probably would have been training in the village for the past 3 years if Jiraiya had any time to train him in the first place, and B, there was a good chance that Jiraiya would have never died because of the fact that he probably would have not been doing reconnaissance on the Akatsuki, therefore he would have never figured out where Pain's hideout was because he was too busy in the Hokage's office, so therefore he would have never infiltrated the Rain Village, and Pain would have never killed him there. Who is the strongest out of Naruto's family? And honestly, I hate to say it, but it's probably Boruto. Now before you spoonbaits get your ninja headbands in a bunch, hear me out. It is stated that Code with his limiter removed is stronger than Ishiki, and Baryon mode is also slightly stronger than Ishiki, so therefore we can somewhat infer that Baryon mode and Code with his limiter removed are in somewhere of the same ballpark of strength. Obviously, we can't officially confirm which one is stronger, but we can say that they're somewhat close. And in the most recent chapters of the manga, Boruto is claiming that he can easily beat Code, and so therefore we can somewhat assume that Boruto is stronger than Code and debatably stronger than Baryon mode. So, with that being said, my vote is on Boruto at the moment. What if Danzo didn't exist? If Danzo didn't exist, it could possibly be one of the greatest things to happen to the series, because pretty much majority of the main terrible events that happened throughout the series, Danzo was part of the cause. If Danzo didn't exist, Shisui would have never died and therefore could have used Koto Matsukami on the Uchiha clan, which would have made it so the coup would have never happened, therefore Shisui would still be there, Itachi would have never left the village, the family would still be there, therefore Sasuke would also have never left the village. If you had a crush on one Naruto character, who is it? And the answer is simply 106. What if Sasuke and Karin were married? And honestly, this makes a little bit of sense, and at least makes about as much sense as Sakura and him getting married. So, with that being said, we could imagine that if Sarada was created between these two and not Sakura, it would have been kind of interesting, because then we would have an Uchiha with an Uzumaki's chakra reserves. What if Naruto was crazy in love with Hinata? And I'm not entirely sure what this means exactly, because he is in love with Hinata, but if you mean to like a crazy stalker level, then that would just mean him and Hinata would get together earlier, because let's be honest, Hinata was also on that stalker level. She literally followed him around and hid behind trees watching him. And let's be honest, there's a good chance that she watched him late at night with her Byakugan. What if Naruto married Gaara? And as much as I know that this is a decently popular ship amongst the fandom, I don't think that this would really change the story very much, except for the fact that there would be no Boruto. What would happen if Naruto left the village with Sasuke and went to Orochimaru? And honestly, that would be a very wild twist that wouldn't really make much sense, but if he did do it, I don't think it would end very well for Orochimaru just because of the fact, knowing him, he would probably attempt to control the Nine Tails, and yeah, I don't think that would end well for him. When Itachi killed Fugaku, couldn't he have took his Sharingan to make his an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? And the answer is actually no, because Fugaku's Mangekyo Sharingan is actually not canon and was an anime-only thing. Imagine Might Guy marrying Tsunade. And I'm not gonna lie, if that marriage happened and they had a child, it would probably be the strongest character in the series. Or at least close to it, because my man could literally spam 8 gates while using 100 healings and pretty much just raffle stomp every single character in the series except for maybe Otsutsuki. If Minato comes back, can we bring back Kurama? And I'm assuming you're referring to the fact that Minato at one point had the other half of Kurama in him, but if I'm not mistaken, when he came back the last time, he gave that other half to Naruto. So therefore, no, if Minato did come back, he does not have Kurama, therefore Kurama could not come back. Kiss, marry, kill Tsunade, Hinata, or Mei. It says the Tsuchikage, but she's the Mizukage. And personally, unfortunately, I would have to kill Mei, kiss Tsunade, and marry Hinata, because as we've seen, Hinata seems like a pretty damn good housewife, and Tsunade would probably just gamble the house away. Will Tobirama kill both Boruto and Sarada? And as much as it seems like a running joke against the Uchiha, I think he's actually more likely to want to kill Boruto, because at the end of the day, it's not necessarily the fact of a hatred against Uchiha specifically. He does have hatred for them, kind of, but more or less due to the fact of their long-running feud. But at the end of the day, what he cares most about is the safety of the village, and honestly, because Boruto has momoshiki inside of him, he's more likely of a threat, and more likely Tobirama would want to kill him. How long would have Sasuke stayed in prison if Kakashi didn't become Hokage? And honestly, I don't think that Sasuke still would have stayed in prison very long, because even if Kakashi didn't become Hokage and it was still Tsunade, Tsunade knows everything that has happened and probably would have given Sasuke the same treatment. What if Shisui didn't die? And honestly, that would drastically change the series, because if Shisui didn't die, then that means he could use Koto Matsukami on the Uchiha clan, which means the coup wouldn't have happened, which means Itachi would have no reason to kill the Uchiha clan, and therefore the Uchiha clan would still be there, Shisui, the strongest of them, would still be there, and Itachi would have never left the village, therefore Sasuke would not have ever had to leave the village. What if Naruto is in a post-apocalyptic world? And it said give a basic answer, so I don't know, fight Deathclaws? Who is your favorite and least favorite Naruto character? And this picture right here, this is literally the answer. Would Itachi stop the Akatsuki from killing Naruto? And honestly, I think he would, because as we know, his main priority is the safety of the village, and he realizes how great of an asset Naruto is to the village. Therefore, obviously, as we've seen, Itachi always requests to be the one to capture the Nine Tails and tries to make it so no one else is sent to the village to do so. This way, he can make it seem like he's going to capture the Nine Tails, but ends up inevitably failing. Hence why he knocked on Naruto's door instead of just busting through and grabbing him. Who is the best sensei in Naruto? And personally, thinking purely sensei-wise, not who I like the most, I'd have to say it's Asuma, because I feel like he tried to train everyone tailored specifically to them. Yes, I know that he did show a little favoritism to Shikamaru, but every sensei showed favoritism in one way or the other, but I feel like he fairly trained everyone, as opposed to the other senseis who kind of just picked one and let the others do what they want. Although Kakashi did train both Naruto and Sasuke at one point in time, but he kind of just left Sakura to collect dust. What if Minato did not die, only Kushina did? And I feel like that's a really hard thing to answer, because it does leave a really odd scenario due to the fact Minato died because he used the Reaper Death Seal to seal Kurama in Naruto. So if that means he's alive, then that means he didn't use the Reaper Death Seal to seal Kurama in Naruto, and therefore, where does Kurama go? Maybe he somehow subdues Kurama himself, but at some point they have to seal Kurama in someone else, and I don't know if that necessarily means they need the Reaper Death Seal, because obviously the other Jinchuriki have had their tail beast sealed inside of them, so it's not necessarily they need the Reaper Death Seal to do that, but then that leaves the question, who do they seal it in? Do they still seal it in Naruto, and then Minato just raises Naruto that way? Do they seal it in someone else? That's a very odd scenario. What if the Boruto series is full of Orochimaru's plane and Boruto Shippuden comes? And I'm assuming that's asking what if Boruto is just some massive diabolical plan by Orochimaru, but that really wouldn't make much sense because I hate to say this, but Orochimaru does not have the ability to control Otsutsuki, and I don't think he's able to just predict what the Otsutsuki are going to be doing. So I highly doubt that's likely. As far as Boruto Shippuden, there basically already is a Boruto Shippuden in the sense of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. Naruto has 3 lines in his face. Boruto has 2. Then Saruto will have 1? And no, I don't think so. I honestly don't think Saruto, if there ever is one, is going to have any lines, because the reason Naruto and Boruto have lines on their face is due to Kurama, because obviously Kushina had Kurama inside of her when Naruto was conceived, and that caused Naruto to have lines. And same thing with Naruto and Hinata creating Boruto. But at this point, obviously, Boruto does not have a Kurama in him, so I highly doubt there's going to be any lines on Saruto. What if Naruto had Sharingan and Rinnegan? And if that were the case, he'd probably be one of the most busted characters in the series, more so than he already is. Because let's say this scenario happened even without Kurama, he would still basically be just Sasuke, but with Sage Mode and 10 times more chakra, which would be great because then you can't give the excuse, oh, I ran out of chakra like Sasuke did every 20 seconds in Boruto. How much people would simp for Naruto with the Harm Jujutsu, the boy and girl version? And I'm not entirely sure what this is asking. I know it has something to do with the harem jutsu, the boy and the girl version, but as far as how many people would simp for it, I don't know what that means exactly, whether you're talking about real life or in the series. Because in the series, obviously, there was Jiraiya, there was the third Hokage, there was Ebisu, and then on the opposite spectrum, there was Sakura and Kaguya. What if Asuma didn't die? And honestly, I don't feel like much would change if that happened. The only difference is maybe instead of Kakashi, it would have been Asuma that went to go take care of Hidan and Kakuzu. But then again, he still probably would have been gravely injured, and so it still would have been most likely Kakashi. So, to that end, I don't think much would change. Why third Hokage didn't tell Naruto his parents were the fourth Hokage? And again, I don't know why he didn't tell Naruto about that, because it doesn't make any sense, and he really should have. And I know, again, a lot of people make the argument, oh, Minato had a lot of enemies, so they didn't want anyone going after Naruto. But at the same time, Naruto is the Jinchuriki, he has the Nine Tails, and that's definitely more sought after than just being Minato's son, and I think it would have been much better for Naruto's character development if he had known that Minato was his dad. Why didn't Minato's family take Naruto? And that is a very good question. Honestly, the only thing I can think of is maybe Minato's parents had already passed away, or Minato's extended family passed away. I'm not really sure. Theory. If Hima has a tailed beast sealed inside of her, which nickname would she have? Oh, and which tailed beast do you think she would have if it were to happen? And I feel like the only two logical answers would either have to be Kurama or Shikaku, based on that little filler excerpt that they had throughout the Boruto anime. But again, that is filler, so canonically she, I don't think, has ever met Shikaku, so we probably would just have to go with Kurama. If Tobirama created a 5th Great Shinobi War because Sarada was the Hokage, then is he a villain or a hero? And even though that makes zero logical sense, I think that would make him a villain, because I don't think Sarada is going to be a bad Hokage, so there would be zero reason to start a war against her. So effectively, he would straight up just be going against the village at that point, and every other village apparently, if he starts a Great Ninja War. So yeah, he'd be a villain. Why does only Itachi Susanoo have 2 legendary weapons, the Sword of Totsuka and the Yaramir, and others don't? And that is a really good question that's never fully been answered in the series, but based on how they worded it with the interaction with Orochimaru due to the fact he was looking for these weapons, it makes it sound as though Itachi at some point found these weapons and managed to fuse them with his Susanoo somehow. So that's the only logical explanation I can think of, is that Itachi just found them at some point and is using them, and it's not just some inherent ability that his Susanoo has. Is Sasuke inspired from Vegeta? And the answer is no, actually. Canonically speaking, it was stated in an interview that Sasuke is actually based off Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho. What if Yahiko and Konan are together? And although never officially confirmed, I feel like that was pretty heavily implied based on the flashbacks of this scene literally right here, where it very clearly looks like they're going for a kiss scene. Kiss, marry, kill, Jiraiya, Naruto, or Sasuke? And I don't swing that way, but if I had to choose, I would kill Jiraiya, kiss Naruto because I don't want to kiss Jiraiya's old man lips, and marry Sasuke because he's never home, so I don't have to deal with that. What if Neji didn't die? And I don't really think it would change anything too much, because let's be honest, his biggest role in the entirety of Shippuden was that exact moment, and even then, I don't think he should have died, because crazy thought here, but am I wrong in thinking that he literally has a move that is meant for reflecting projectiles called rotation? Hear me out. What if Sakura wasn't useless? And hear me out, Sakura isn't useless. I know it's a wild take, I know, but she just says really stupid things like, I finally caught up with these two. No, you didn't. But she actually is not useless, and Naruto probably would have died during the war arc, as well as many other people, if Sakura wasn't there. If Guy is not depressed like Kakashi, why did he not get married? And I don't know, maybe that's just a personal life choice of his, I guess. Maybe he just didn't want to get married, or maybe he's swinging for Team Kakashi, I don't know. 1. Why is Sakura so ugly? And 2. Who was the rabbit with tailed beast that showed up in the Kaguya vs Team 7 fight? Love your content. First of all, thank you fam, I appreciate the support. Secondly, I personally don't think Sakura is actually ugly, and I feel like a lot of people feel the same way. She's just stupid. And thirdly, what is this giant rabbit thing? And that, from my knowledge, is Kaguya in itself. It's not a tailed beast, that is actually Kaguya. What if Naruto became a villain? And that is a very interesting concept, and I feel like it's significantly dependent on when he became a villain. Say he became a villain the same time Gaara did, then I don't think it would be that big of a threat due to the fact that A, he wouldn't have Rasengan, because obviously Jiraiya wouldn't teach him the Rasengan if he was a villain. And so the biggest threatening thing he would have would be shadow clones, and at that point, I feel as though even Kakashi would just be able to subdue him by himself. But if he became a villain during Shippuden, that is a much bigger threat, and I feel like it would lead to Naruto end up being killed by the main cast of good guys and whatnot, just because of the fact that he would probably let Kurama go on a rampage, and they would have no choice but to kill Naruto. Imagine you are Konohamaru. What would you do in Naruto Part 1, 4th Season with Tsunade? And the answer is nothing, because A, that is assault, and B, I don't have a death wish. Why did Hashirama not use 1000 hands against the Ten Tails? And I think that just simply comes down to the fact that he's not at full strength. It is very much canonically stated that Edo Tensei reincarnations are not at 100% strength as they were alive, and so my guess is, being the fact that he's an Edo Tensei, he probably just can't use it. Because of Karin's chakra, Sarada is like that, but why she has Obito's eye problem? And first of all, I'm not sure why we're even referencing Karin in this, because Sakura is Sarada's mom, even though some people for some reason have some delusion that it is Karin, I don't know why. And B, the reason she has Obito's eye problem is just because she was born that way? I don't know. Having the Sharingan clears up your eye problem, but when you're not using the Sharingan, that means you still just have normal eyes. What if Jiraiya had Byakugan? And the answer is simply, he would probably be in jail. I mean, due to not wanting to get banished to the Shadow Realm on YouTube, I'm not going to elaborate any further, but if you put 2 and 2 together of what kind of person Jiraiya is, and what he would do if he could see through walls, you can see why. Explain to me, why should Sasuke marry the trash? And I think it just comes down to the fact that he didn't really have any other option. I mean, they clearly wanted to make a new Uchiha child for Boruto, so his only options that were single were either Sakura or Tenten, and honestly, I think Sakura is the better choice there. Will there be a relationship with Kakashi and Iruka in the future? Please pin me. And for some reason, I know that this is a massive ship, especially apparently in Japan, from what I've heard. I don't really get it, but the answer is probably not. Can Naruto use other tailed beasts? And that has been a working theory for some time now, obviously due to the fact that since he lost Kurama, but it is said in Shippuden that he can call upon the chakras of the other tailed beasts, hence why even in Boruto, he can still use different variations of the Rasen Shuriken like this. So, it's stated that can he use these other tailed beast chakras even though Kurama is gone? Can he still call upon them? And honestly, I don't know. He hasn't really been in any major fights since the Ishiki fight, so we don't really know what he is capable of. Is Koto Matsukami the best genjutsu? And the answer is simply yes, because it's not even the fact of putting a specific person in a weird reality to torture them or anything like that. Koto Matsukami is a mass range genjutsu that affects a wide range of people, whoever he wants to target, and it literally alters these targets' actual reality. So he can basically make them think whatever he wants to make them think. Why didn't the substitution jutsu break Naruto? And the answer is simply because it was poor story writing, hence why they kind of didn't really use substitution jutsu after the first several episodes of the series, because it became very apparent quickly that any sort of fatal wound you could literally just rewrite because, oh well, he just used substitution on it. Kakashi gets stabbed in the head, substitution. Naruto gets hit with Chidori, substitution. You could literally say that about anything, and then it would make things like Kamui or any sort of fatal damage ever irrelevant. So that's why they stopped using it. Who do you think the strongest person in Naruto is? And if we're including the entirety, including Boruto, then it's this guy, Shibai Otsutsuki, who was the god of the Otsutsukis. But if we're only going up to Shippuden, then it's either Kaguya or Jubi Madara. And I know a lot of people will be like, no, Kaguya is definitely stronger, but I feel like people don't give Jubi Madara enough credit because it was still taking Naruto and Sasuke to combat him too, and because he had the Ten Tails in him, he was technically an Otsutsuki himself. So I still think there is a debate there. What if Kushina did not die and Naruto don't have Kurama and Naruto did not love by Hinata, he also married an Uzumaki girl? So basically this is saying that what if Kurama was still inside of Kushina instead, so Naruto never received him, and instead of marrying Hinata, he marries some random Uzumaki girl. But the issue with that is there isn't really any other Uzumaki girls. The Uzumaki clan basically got wiped out, and so the only known members were Kushina, Naruto, and Karin and Nagato. And Nagato died, Karin is still alive, so you could say he could marry Karin, but at the same time, that's technically his relative to a certain degree, so that's a bit weird. But if they did have a kid, the kid would have an absurd amount of chakra. Why does Naruto wear goggles in the first episode, and why never after that? And this one's actually a funny one, and as far as I've heard from an interview from Kishimoto himself, the legitimate reason why Naruto stops wearing goggles was because they were too much of a pain to draw. And so that's why they had him gain his ninja headband really quickly, because the ninja headband is significantly easier to draw than the goggles. Minato is stronger than Hashirama if he has the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. He got full Kurama, then he is stronger than Madara. I don't know why they nerfed him in the war. And I could not disagree more. Minato is definitely not stronger than Hashirama. Very well clearly displayed by the fact that when Madara fought Hashirama, Madara had literally the Nine Tails with him, wrapped in Susanoo, and Hashirama still won. What happened to the Namikaze clan? And that is one question I can't answer because there's literally zero explanation as to what happened to the clan. Like I said earlier in the video, who knows whether his relatives just died, whether they just were forgotten about, I'm not really sure. Can Kakashi copy anything? And the answer is no. While it also is yes in the sense of he can copy any ninjutsu or genjutsu, just like any other Sharingan user, but he cannot copy other things like dojutsu, like he can't copy Tsukiyomi or anything like that, but he can copy pretty much every ninjutsu and genjutsu, or even taijutsu for that matter. Can Naruto use the jutsus in his sus body part?
What?
And I know what you mean by the sus body part, but I don't really get what you mean by use them with the sus body part. Like, what do you want him to do? Shoot a Rasengan out of his cucumber? I'm not really sure. Why Granny Chiyo reanimated old while Madara reanimated young? They both died old and get reanimated by the same jutsu and caster. And the answer is simply, as Kabuto stated, when he found Madara's body, he modified the body, fusing it with Hashirama cells and whatnot, and so either the Hashirama cells made Madara's body younger, or, inversely, Kabuto did something else to make the body younger so he could be in his prime, versus Chiyo, he probably just let bygones be bygones. Are Naruto and Sasuke secretly dating? And the answer is, of course. You gotta realize, it's literally stated in the series that when Sasuke comes back to the village, he always goes and sees Naruto first in the Hokage office. They only weaken the others in Boruto so that Boruto has the spotlight, not Naruto or Sasuke or anyone else, because Boruto is a new generation. And this is true. I believe Kishimoto has actually stated this in an interview, that he could not progress the story of a new generation while having everything being saved by Naruto and Sasuke all the time. So he had to either nerf them or get rid of certain powers in some way in order to make it so the new generation could step forward and tell their story. Is Ichiraku have the powers of Sage of the Six Paths? And the answer is yes. Never doubt the power of the Sage of the Six Bowls. How did Hashirama die? And again, this is a question that is completely up to speculation because it was never officially confirmed. Some speculate that he got assassinated, some speculate that he died of poison, some speculate that he died of old age, although I can kind of debunk that last one, just due to the fact, as we've stated previously, when someone is brought back with the reanimation jutsu, they are brought back in the same body that they died in. Hence why the third Hokage and Chiyo were brought back when they were old. But as we've seen, Hashirama was brought back when he was young. So therefore, he died when he was young. And that's also doubled by the fact that the second Hokage was still the second Hokage as a young person as well. Meaning that the first Hokage had to have died suddenly, even though he was the older brother. So, with that being said, it can be speculated that the first Hokage did die young in some way. Why Naruto have blue Kurama eyes in Naruto vs. Kakuzu? And honestly, I don't really know the answer to that. I guess it was more or less just a way of showing the fact that he was tapping into Kurama's chakra without actually turning into a tailed beast form of some sort. A theory. What if Minato is reanimated and shares the other Kurama chakra with Naruto after Kurama dies? And I kind of answered this already earlier on in the video, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Minato already did that before the reanimation ended during the war arc. I'm pretty sure he gave the other half of Kurama to Naruto. What is the strongest dojutsu in your opinion? And again, I believe I already answered this earlier in the video, but I definitely think it's Kamui. Kamui is exceedingly busted. It makes you intangible, makes it so you can pretty much be invulnerable to any damage, can teleport. It's pretty broken. If you could have one Naruto power, what would it be? And I'd probably have to say Flying Raijin, because then once I have traveled anywhere at least once, that means I can just travel there again instantly, so it's just free travel. It's pretty broken. Why did Naruto not end up with Sasuke? And as I stated earlier, who says he didn't? Again, his first destination every time he comes back is the Hokage's office to have some undisclosed conversations. Who is the best genjutsu user? And you gotta give that crown to Shisui because he has literally the strongest genjutsu in Koto Matsukami. What is your favorite Naruto clan? And I know it sounds really cliche, but I gotta give it to the Uchiha clan. Who is the most annoying character in Naruto? This radish looking spoonbait. Do you think Naruto can control how much power you put into his Rasengan? Also, I really like your content. And first of all, thank you very much, appreciate the love. And secondly, of course he can control how much power, hence why he has regular Rasengan, Rasen Shuriken, Giant Rasengan, and such. What if Naruto killed Sasuke and took his Sharingan and Rinnegan along with his jutsus? Do you think that he will ever feel challenged after having so much power? And yeah, I think he'd still be challenged. This is a given in the sense if he still has Kurama, then I would say that puts him on par with most Otsutsuki at that point. But if he doesn't have Kurama, then I still think most Otsutsuki can probably beat him. But at the same time, he would be ridiculously busted because he could spam a lot more of the Dojutsu's abilities due to the fact of his giant chakra reserves. What is the worst Kekkei Genkai? And I guess it would have to be the Inuzuka clan's Kekkei Genkai, if it even has a name, or if it even is a Kekkei Genkai. I don't really know, but I would assume that this is probably the worst. Is there an in real life Ichiraku ramen? And yes, in real life, in Japan, there is a real life Ichiraku ramen, as well as I think there is a few other locations, not specifically this like branch or anything, but I think there is other Ichiraku locations all across the world that are just ramen places that call themselves either Naruto ramen or Ichiraku ramen, but I do know that there is an official Ichiraku ramen in Japan. Should Boruto get a better upgrade and story plot? And honestly, I think it did with Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. I think the story is going really, really well in that manga, and not to mention, he definitely got an upgrade. I think Boruto as a character is pretty awesome, especially his new Rasengan, because he literally just one-shotted Code. Why can't you just give your chakra to someone forcefully than Senjutsu users with much stronger? I'm not really sure what that last part meant, unless you were saying why can't you just give your chakra to Senjutsu users so they can last in Sage Mode a lot longer? I'm not really sure if that's what you meant, but you can give your chakra to other users. But as far as the Senjutsu part goes, you need to have Nature Chakra, which takes time to collect, and most people don't know how to harness Nature Chakra, and it's really only the Sage Mode users that do know how to do it. Why does the final valley fight between Naruto and Sasuke happen that is a useless fight, they both lose their arms? And obviously it's because Sasuke basically wanted to become the dictator of the entire world. I mean, there's no other reason for it. Is it a useless fight? It knocks some sense into Sasuke, so no, I would not say it was useless. That's really the only reason, is obviously Sasuke was still a bad guy. Obviously Naruto didn't want to fight, but Sasuke did. Would you lick peanut butter off of the 106? And what kind of question is that? Of course I would. Peanut butter, Nutella, cookie butter, soy sauce, I don't care. What does Naruto love? Ramen.
What?
And yes, Naruto loves ramen. Ramen very much, especially miso tonkotsu ramen. Is Kakashi underrated or overrated? And I think Kakashi is very fairly rated. He's an incredible character with a very deep backstory. He's extremely powerful. I think he's pretty accurately rated. Can Sasuke use Amaterasu in Boruto? And yes, he can. He very much can, but he doesn't really do it because of plot and the fact that he ran out of chakra 12 episodes ago. Can Naruto beat Luffy? And honestly, I hate to say it, but with the addition of Gear 5, I actually think I would have to say no. I think Gear 5 would win because he essentially turns into a cartoon character. And if anyone knows anything about power scaling, it's that cartoon characters are extremely, extremely busted. Hence why a lot of people scale cartoon characters stronger than people like Saitama or Goku, because gag characters are just the epitome of laws don't apply to them. Are Naruto and Sasuke cousins? And I mean, no and yes, kind of, because I guess technically both of their bloodlines to a degree came from the same place. They both came from the Sage of the Six Paths in a way, but that was over literally like hundreds and thousands, or I don't even know how many years. I know it's several hundred years, so it's extremely diluted, but I guess technically they're related in a way, but not really. Did Kakashi is able to use Izanami because he has Sharingan, but he's not an Uchiha? And the answer, I believe, is yes, due to the fact that Danzo can clearly use Izanagi even though he's not an Uchiha, so I imagine Kakashi would be able to use Izanami. If Sasuke spoons Hinata and Hinata gets pregnant, then the kid will have the Byakugan and the Sharingan. And yes, in an actual interview with Kishimoto, he did state that if Sasuke and Hinata did have a child, the child would have one Sharingan and one Byakugan. Why doesn't Sarada get Sasuke's old eyes before he took Itachi's eyes? And actually, that is a good question, and I imagine that could come into play at some point, because obviously it was Obito that switched them out. I imagine Obito didn't just chuck them in a trash can, he probably stored them somewhere in his secret lab. So I also imagine Sasuke probably knows where that is. So if it ever comes down to it, there is a good chance that that may happen. What is the relationship between Might Guy and Rock Lee? And quite simply, teacher and student, although it does make me wonder what Rock Lee's parents actually do, because no, Might Guy is not Rock Lee's dad. Why does Kakashi reread the same books? I personally think this is the answer. Repeated viewing fulfills emotional needs, gives us comfort, provides a sense of control over our lives, and connects us with our past. Familiar shows/books provide an appealing mix of relaxation and stimulation, and an unexpected combination of old and new. And I think that's pretty spot on to a certain degree, because it is pretty canonically known that Kakashi does have some sort of degree of depression, and so I do think that he does reread some in an effort of comfort. But at the same time, if you do look up images of Kakashi reading, you will see it's not always the same book. And the Makeout Paradise is a series. I don't know how many books are in the series, but I do know he also did look forward to reading the new ones whenever they did come out. Who changed Naruto's diaper? And honestly, I don't know. That is a pretty big plot hole in the series, because as we've seen in this flashback, I'm not entirely sure if it was anime only or not, but in this flashback specifically, we saw that Naruto lived by himself at a very, very young age. And so that is, one, very irresponsible of the third Hokage, because who just lets a 5-year-old live by himself? But that does lead us to the question, who was taking care of Naruto? Because also in this flashback, it was seemingly the first time Naruto had met the third Hokage. So clearly it's not him being taken care of. So who was taking care of Naruto? You would think that maybe it was some sort of medical ninja personnel, but at the same time, you would think that Naruto would have some sort of attachment to said person, and he clearly doesn't have an attachment to any random character that we don't know. So the only other option may be Iruka, I don't know. If Itachi worked for the Leaf even after joining Akatsuki, why didn't he slip information to others while fighting shinobis from the Leaf? And that's simply because no one in the Leaf knew that he was actually working for the Leaf. It was literally only the third Hokage, Danzo, and the other elders that knew about the situation. So it really wouldn't make sense for Itachi to just randomly slip them information. He had to give the elders the information personally. Why does Guy always forget who Kisame is when he looks so unique and unforgettable? And I'm not really sure, honestly. He also, at one point during Boruto, forgot who Madara was as well, so at this point I'm just convinced that he has just some form of dementia. Why did Zetsu have to manipulate others when he could just attempt to do it himself? And that's simply because A, he wasn't strong enough to do it himself. He's probably Jonin level at best, but there are definitely other ninja, such as people like Obito or Nagato and the like, that are significantly stronger than him because they do have the Sharingan, they do have the Rinnegan. And sure, he could probably use these things himself, but he still needs to have other factors than just him solo trying to collect the Jinchuriki, solo trying to do everything. It's not really practical. What was the power of Sasuke's original Mangekyo Sharingan? And based on my knowledge, it was the power to control Amaterasu. And what I mean by this is, as we've seen, Itachi gave Sasuke Amaterasu, but whenever we saw Itachi use Amaterasu, it was just the regular variation of it that we all know. Whereas we've seen Sasuke create spikes from it, he's created a sword from it, and things of that nature. So we've never really seen Itachi do that, and I feel as though if he was able to do that, he probably would, because he's just a smart, genius fighter like that. So I'm pretty positive it's more of the factor that Sasuke's Mangekyo is the ability to control what he does.